Yeah.
One of the questions I was going to ask is, are there biblical examples of choosing joy while still acknowledging pain or suffering? And there's Psalm 13, which I think is short enough. Is it okay if I read it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
You can read the Bible.
I'm
on
good.
this
Yeah,
podcast.
thanks
It's
for
fine.
permission to read
Yeah.
the Bible. But it says, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart day after day? How long will my enemy exalt himself and triumph over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord, my God. Give light and life to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death." That's dark. And my enemy will say, "I have overcome him," and my adversaries will rejoice when I am shaken. But I have trusted and relied and been confident in your loving kindness and faithfulness. My heart shall rejoice and delight in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. And I love how it starts with like, are you going to forget me forever? Because I feel like oftentimes we feel like God forgets us.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Like he's busy, right? Like my life's not awful, or like maybe your life is awful and you're like, come on, God. Like,
Where you at, son? Yeah.
I feel like
where you at?
we've overcome the balance of like good and evil, and we're just hanging on the real evil part of life right now, you know, and just waiting for it to swing back. But what I love about this psalm from David is that the first 4 verses are, "This sucks. My enemies are winning. I'm in pain. Have you forgotten me?" And the last 2 are like, "I will trust you. I will rely on you, and I will delight in you, and I will rejoice."
Yeah, that's so good.
And so I feel like that is a perfect example of like not being toxically positive. It's not like he's out there saying like, things may suck, but I'm good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
all's well. Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, that's really good. I think it's that perspective through the pain and stuff,
Yeah.
like acknowledging that you're there.
Right.
I was thinking of a couple Old Testament stories that really would apply really well. The one that seems super extreme is Job, right?
Yeah.
And so Job went
Yeah.
he was in this awesome season in life. And then all of these things started happening. There was like,
Yep.
he lost all of his crops. The dude was loaded. He lost all of his animals, and his kids all died. And like, he's left with nothing. And even like his wife is coming up to him and she's like, "Curse God and die." And he's like, "No.
Now I'm not gonna do that.
I'm just going to like bless the Lord." And I'm sitting here on this trash heap scraping boils with a piece of pottery or broken whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, that seems to me like it probably couldn't get much worse.
Yeah.
And through that, he even has friends come, and his friends are coming, and just all this negativity. They're like, "Dude, you screwed up. You're paying for all these things that you've obviously done in your life that
Right.
we're not aware of." But
Right.
like,
God
I think-
knows.
You must
but
have earned that
this
awfulness.
isn't
Yeah.
different than the
theology.
church sometimes, guys. Like, this still happens.
Yeah.
And so we're like, all these negative things are taking place. And through that, Job just chooses to bless God, to praise God. He worshiped God in that. He wasn't sitting there saying, "This is great," like in like denying things that had taken place, because he had a great conversation there's a great conversation between him and God. And God like throws down. He's like, where were you when I did all of this?
Yep.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Job is joyful, and he's like
Yeah.
thankful.
Yeah.
And it's not like he was overtly joyful either. It's like he was just choosing to praise God through that. And at the end of all of this trial season, the hardships in his life, God blessed him even more than what he had before all this trauma took place in his life. So, like, I think when I think of joy in somebody that's been through all of it, like all the things, I think of Job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, I actually been memorizing Hebrews 12, like 1 and 2, where like right there in verse 2, like it literally says like for the joy set before him, Jesus like went to the cross.
Yeah.
And like what's the word? He despised the pain, and even despised some of the shame that came with going to the cross. But like literally, like Jesus, like when Jesus was staring down the cross, it says like he was actually joyful when he did that. And it's almost like he knew, like when he was going to go through the cross, what was going to happen on the other side was what's going to bring literally like redemption and salvation and like life forever for everybody to ever like face. Not but like for everybody who walks on this planet. So being able to think about that and this thing through, like, man, like Jesus was joyful going to the cross, not even like in a fake way, but like he was genuinely joyful because he knew that the outcome of it was going to be greater for everybody else. So seeing that, like, man, yes, like we have to go through pain. That's part of the joy process, but also seeing that like when we go through the pain and we come out on the other side, like other people are going to benefit from that. You know, and even like other people can benefit from the joy that we have because of the hardships that we go through. Yeah. It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's
I love
good.
that. I love that, man.
Yeah.
Have we ever, or maybe you guys ever felt pressured to like have like the fake toxic positivity in
Yes.
your life?
Oh,
Never have I ever. So
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah,
like
for sure.
like what's
Yeah.
that like for you guys to like have to like, oh, I gotta put a face on and smile today, knowing that it's not always that way.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm going first again.
Ladies
I feel
first.
bad about this. Yeah, no, the first church that I worked for very much so had that posture, and not necessarily in an intentional way, but more of with culture at a church, you either are intentional about it or you allow it to create itself. And it was one of those things where it just got allowed, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
wasn't like an intentional, you must be happy all the time, but it's like it just kind of spun that way. But the second church that I worked for, I will never forget. We had a vision night during my residency, and the lead pastor, her name's Kathy, showed up, got in front of everyone who's there for the vision night, which was like literally where the whole church gets together and
Yeah.
wanted to hear like what the congregation wanted to see happen and like kind of just evaluate where things were at as a whole church. It was a much smaller church, so that was possible. And she literally walked up there and she goes, "Guys, I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to be here right now.
Here we go.
Like I've had a long day
Yeah.
and I'm not in a good place to be leading this, but this is important, so we're
Right.
gonna do it."
So here we are. Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, I sat there and I was like,
You can't do that.
in my head, I was like, in my head, I was both like, you can't do that, but then
Yeah.
also like, can we do that? Like, is that an option to just admit that like we're exhausted after a long week?
That was not in the rule
Like,
book.
But honestly, it was crazy because everyone we took a minute and we had a deep breath because everyone else was like that too. They just spent their whole days working. Most of those people in that setting worked 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that they made the time to come there at all was huge,
Yeah.
right? Kind of like the farmers now. If the farmers show up, it's like a huge deal because work is 24/7, 365, you know? So it was a huge deal that anyone was there. And so we all just had a minute where we just took a breath and reset ourselves and then move forward. But like I think it's difficult, especially as a pastor, to feel like it's okay to acknowledge that you're not like killing it all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, even beyond being in ministry, what does your conversation look like at Meijer, or at the gas station with somebody, or at work, really, at whatever your job is? Like I've dealt with this for years and years in the construction industry. It's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm great, I'm fine, because to tell you the truth, I just don't want to tell you how I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like
Midwest
Yeah.
nice.
maybe
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Midwest nice or whatever, but it's like I don't know if you can handle how I'm doing or
Right.
whatever, or if
Yeah,
you really
yeah.
care. Like, why did you even ask me that? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have time to get into this? I think.
Do you want a real answer?
Yeah.
If we're all
Or do you just
honest,
all
I
talk
think
shit,
it
yeah.
happens pretty much all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Anytime you
and
see
so-
somebody, yeah. I see
Yeah,
that.
and so I think, has it ever happened? Like, it happens. I feel like it happens every day. Like we walk in, we're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we're like, "Are you a safe person?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no,
can you handle
you're
how
right.
I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not. You know, like I think I'm doing. I'm fine. You know, or I'm like, okay, let's sit down. We need a cup of coffee.
Right.
And or maybe we need to jump in the truck and take a ride. And
Right.
I'd love to tell you how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so, I think toxic positivity would take place everywhere. It's part of, I think it's part of society.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah,
It
for
really
sure.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not fun and it's not sexy to say I'm not doing great.
Right.
Look at social media, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
What's on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, or the ones that are negative, it's like, oh my word, like
Scroll.
yeah, exactly.
Scroll past
So
that one,
That's
yeah.
not that's not
Thumbs
fun.
down. Yeah.
And so, I
We
think
call it doom scrolling.
right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure.
So,